Word Funk. I am Leon Thomas. I am joined by Austin Yorsky and Johnny Maloney. Fellows, how are you? How are you feeling this week? Maybe I shouldn't ask that anymore because it's always bad. Instead,
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh. Is it good?
Oh yeah.
Is it real good, Johnny?
Leon.
Yeah.
Leon, Austin.
What's
I
up?
got some goodnight kisses on Saturday.
Oh, good for you. I'm real happy for you and your mouth.
Is there any other way to phrase that? You want to take a run at that again? Because I'm not sure if it's the creepiest way you could have said it, but it's up there.
Are you talking to me or Leon?
Oh, let's just assume everybody.
Just everybody.
No,
Right
like
I'm not saying like I got action, but I did.
Of course not. That would be gross, and I would feel bad about it.
No, I got.
But like this sounds sweet.
I got some goodnight kisses, and they were like
Good.
they were like I had my head was directed to goodnight kisses, so I think I made a very positive impression on my date on Saturday, so that gives me warm and fuzzies. And also, I have more sauerkraut in me right now than I should, but I'm happy about that. Those two subjects are not related.
I was about to ask, but okay. Well, that's great. I'm really happy for you.
Johnny just found the one person who's just super horny for sauerkraut.
Sometimes
I do
you
like
just
sauerkraut.
meet the right person, Austin. You know, sometimes just that like aroma and just that tangy zip.
It's not bad. Do I gamble with this good feeling and ask Austin how he's doing?
Better not.
Oh no, never mind. That didn't happen. Forget it. Instead of asking Austin how he's doing, let's talk about the Sonic the Hedgehog movie. So there's a Sonic the Hedgehog movie coming out next year in November. So we got about a year and a half to wait for the Sonic the Hedgehog movie.
Do we know, is Jaleel White confirmed to voice?
Chili dogs.
I doubt it, but like I would be down for it. Like that would be fine. All we really know are like some sort of like basic stuff right now. It's being animated. It's going to be animated by Marza Animation Planet, which I had to look up because I wasn't sure what they had done. And they have done some movies, which is nice. But one of those movies was Kingsglaive, Final Fantasy 15.
Oh, Leon's favorite.
Which was not nice at all. It was bad and awful.
But
Kingsglaive got Leon hornier than some sauerkraut.
Come
and
on,
you loved it.
Like technically speaking, Leon, you have to admit that Kingsglaive was probably like admirable. Technically,
no, I do not have to admit that at all, Johnny.
No, not even.
He will not be swayed. Wait, hold on. Leon, do you think Kingsglaive would have been better if it had starred Jaleel White?
I mean, it couldn't have hurt. I mean, at least it would have given me some kind of joy. But no. I mean, look, I'm not saying that the people who animated it were bad animators, because obviously they knew what they were doing. But what I am saying is that I was not interested in the animation of that movie because everything felt very weightless and frankly, their faces look waxy and gross. But here's the thing about the Sonic the Hedgehog movie, everyone. Mm-hmm. It's going to star Sonic the Hedgehog, and he's going to be animated, but we won't get any waxy, gross human faces because there will be live-action humans in it, and I don't know why.
Is that confirmed? Is that what they're doing? We're doing a Roger Rabbit thing?
According to the Forbes article that I read, it is, in fact, going to have live-action characters and mixed up with CG characters as well.
I mean, not to mansplain Sonic the Hedgehog to you two, because I'm sure you're aware, but there is precedent for this, because in Sonic 06, Sonic the Hedgehog kissed a human woman.
Yeah, he sure did. He kissed her real good.
And then he turned to the camera and said, "Did I do that?"
Oh, my. But yeah, the Sonic the Hedgehog movie is coming out November 15th, 2019. Save the date. So that's what's going to happen. It doesn't say, and I read a few articles about this. It doesn't say for sure that it's going to have like a widescreen, like a wide theatrical release. Because when someone said like they're making a Sonic the Hedgehog movie, I thought, oh, you mean like it'll be on Netflix or it'll be on like direct to Blu-ray? But I mean, I guess it's apparently a Paramount acquired the rights, and they're pretty darn big. So one would assume that they would be able to release it in a lot of theaters. I just don't know if they will want to. So we'll see. That's basically all we know about it so far.
Look, if the Emoji Movie can manage like a major international release, I think Sonic the Hedgehog warrants a theatrical one.
No, I mean I agree in concept, but emojis are like a thing that all teenagers do. And who am I kidding? I mean I've done emojis as well. But
Leon
I've done
Thomas
emojis.
quote, "I have done emojis." End quote.
I have done. I like once. I actually prefer to just do the emoticons and not have to go into my phone and find the right emojis, because that's time that I don't need. But yes, I have done that, so I understand. But I haven't played. I don't actively play Sonic the Hedgehog, and neither do a lot of people. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not trying to like dump on this movie before I've seen it, but wasn't the time to make a Sonic the Hedgehog movie like a very long time ago?
Yep.
Am I wrong about that?
No, you're not wrong. You're absolutely right about that.
I mean, technologically, obviously, it's the right time to make a Sonic the Hedgehog movie, but culturally, it's not.
I mean, it went so well for the Super Mario Brothers, so.
I mean, well, and yet they are making a new Super Mario Brothers movie, which I assume will also be CG. So, good for them, I guess. Maybe they'll fight. Maybe they'll both release it on the same day, and we'll get that old school Nintendo versus Sega stuff. But I doubt it.
I think they're friends now because they're in the Olympics together.
Yeah,
that doesn't mean
are.
they're friends, Austin.
Dang.
I like the way you said that they're friends now. It reminds me of the scene in Terminator 2 Judgment Day where John Connor, in reference to Russia, aren't we friends with them now? And it's like that's such like a childish way to explain that we're no longer actively trying to destroy each other. But
or
that was
weren't.
like a brief time. Yeah. Oh well. Sorry, I deviated. Anyway, Sonic the Hedgehog movie, catch it, I guess.
It's gonna go fast.
It sure is. Yeah, there's gonna be a lot of fast-related jokes that are gonna happen when it debuts. If it does poorly, people will say it went quickly out of theaters, and if it does well, they will say things like it went 100 miles an hour, and that's how many millions it made this weekend or something. So just get ready for that, I guess.
Yeah. Amateur writers start flexing your pen muscles. Those puns are just waiting to be picked.
Yeah.
And you know what?
They're
going fast.
They are. I can only imagine like a reviewer who has never played a Sonic the Hedgehog game right before writing their review, looking it up on Wikipedia so they can figure out how to spell Robotnik and things like that.
No. It's Eggman now.
Oh, it sure is. Oh God. I've exposed myself as such a bad Sonic fan. Okay. I'm someone who brought up a video game topic, so that was weird this week. If someone would like to take the reins at this point, we're only 10 minutes into the show, but that was the topic I wanted to bring up. I have like a couple other things, but nothing like monumental. If anyone else would like to take hold of the show.
I mean, your enthusiasm was inspiring. I'm really glad you brought that heat, that energy this week, because we all need it. As you may or may not know, the Supreme Court this week ruled that you can just keep people in detention forever with no explanation if they are not American citizens. So internment camps are back, baby. Legal in the USA.
You're talking if you're a law enforcement agent, right? Like not just for fun.
Yeah, but still, yeah, yeah. We can definitely turn to serious town. Yeah, this sucks. It's awful, and I feel like I shouldn't have to say that, but apparently there's enough of the country that wants this that I guess I do.
I mean, it's the Supreme Court. I assume everyone knows, but in case you don't, the way this works is there are 9 people who make these decisions, and they have their job for life, specifically so that they aren't pressured by, like, people. The way our system is that certain people are more accountable than others. So, like, the House of Representatives is the most accountable.
Yeah, so that you
then
don't,
President, Senate, and then court.
So you don't get elected to your job, right? And then do things like give a bunch of money to, like, a gun lobbying organization, and then have a just saving face meeting with a bunch of kids who are victims of gun violence, and then, like, take pictures of you in this meeting with these kids and use those pictures to, like, fund your next election campaign. That would just be ridiculous. I mean,
Yeah.
This show is going to be a very interesting time capsule as we slide into totalitarianism. Like, if people are going to go back and listen to it and be like, I can pinpoint when when America failed because these idiots suddenly stopped talking about Sonic the Hedgehog's dick or whatever.
No, Austin, don't you worry about it. All of this will be purged in the great seizure. So,
I mean, just today, what's his fuck went on TV or what, and it's like, I don't care what people's rights are, just do stuff. Due process, more like do nothing. Something
more
my
like,
dick
more
is
like
bad.
do.
Just
Nailed it.
I'm apoplectic. I have lost stuff, including a couple of cases I thought were kind of funny. Hopefully that'll make up for it. I think I promised last week to be more upbeat this time.
Yeah, yeah. Right at the end of the last show, I went into the Word Funk chat and I said, "Only good news next week." So we're gonna bring that Sonic the Hedgehog, and Austin and Austin, I don't blame you at all, but you like torpedoed that pretty quickly. But that's not your fault. That's America's fault, actually.
Yeah, I didn't do it.
Look,
Yeah.
I watched a movie. Okay, I did my homework.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
That's great. I'm glad.
It's just there's so much going on. It seems like malpractice not to acknowledge what is happening in the world.
I can't keep up with it anymore. I honestly can't. Like, I'm.
Yeah. I feel the same way because I just learned a few days ago that one of our governors it was indicted for something related to someone he was illicitly seeing, and like. But this scandal had been going on for months, and it was just the first I'd heard of it because it's a local matter, and there's so many national matters that that catch the media's attention, and that's what comes into my my timelines and my news articles that I read and the shows that I watch. So it's like, oh, who the fuck is this guy? Why haven't we be talking about this and nothing else for this year? And it's like, oh, because everything else is on fire.
Yeah, it's kind of fucking me up. I like to think of myself as being a well-informed person. Mm-hmm. You know, I seek out information as opposed to it just kind of being like dropped in my lap. But I have not been able to keep up with the pace of it. Like I just can't. In between like every investigation, every allegation, every fucking scandal that's erupting, like every bullshit overreaching extension of power that the government's working for. I can't do it, man. You
have less obligation to do it.
And
you have less obligation to do it as a Canadian, though.
I have no stake in it, but it just like oh god. I shouldn't say I have no stake in it because I mean the real fact of the matter is that everybody in the world has a stake in how the United States operates, because that's just who you are.
Yeah. Like a week ago, there was a news something on the news, and someone said something along the lines of, well, America's no longer like this sort of leader in the world, so who is it now? Is it Germany? Because that's weird. Like historically, like are we ready to trust Germany to help run the world? And I'm not trying to be like a dick or anything. It's just not what we expected. But
I mean the real truth is that it's China and Russia. That's it. You know, they're not They're not standing on the highest platform, you know, congratulating themselves, but that's it. That's them.
Oh well. So that was.
I mean,
And whoever owns the most bitcoins, of course.
No, I was just going to say, in the context of that question, it sounded like you were answering, like, who's leading the world just in, like, authority or, like, some kind of power thing. But
I meant more as, like, a moral authority.
Yeah, that's what I think you guys are on different pages there.
Yeah. That's what I mean.
No,
like,
I still stand by my answer.
Okay.
I mean, if gulags are
we're
legal
trusting-
in the United States right now, I still sort of feel like China and Russia...
Oh no, not China! What did we do? Oh well. Take the helm, China.
I'm looking up the highest standard of living by country, and it looks like Finland is number one.
Yeah, but
it's almost
they keep to themselves.
Yeah, it's almost always the Scandinavian countries when you look up, like, what are the best countries in the world based on, like, this mathematical, like, metrics, and then it's like, oh, it's like them.
Yeah, man.
by
Socialized
the
medicine
way-
and, like, lots of educational funding and civic infrastructure. Oh, man. If only there was something that other Western nations could do to catch up to those numbers, but I guess we'll just never fucking know what it is. It just, such a mystery.
By the way, I before anyone rushes to the comments to remind me of, like, the like catastrophic human rights abuses in China. I know. I'm being, like, a little facetious. Like, I know China has, like, very serious problems too, socially. So do we. The point that we're trying to make is, like, what the fuck? I guess. Yeah, that was my point.
Sounds about
my
right.
Point is, I guess. Yeah, that was it. Okay, sorry. Austin, do you have fun law cases to drag us away from all of this?
I think I do. I'm still looking into this because this last conversation confused me greatly. So I'm looking up what healthcare is like in Finland and Denmark. The third highest.
okay.
Canada is second. Obviously, Canada has socialized medicine. Finland has apparently a very robust public option and some private stuff. Denmark. Wow, Denmark. Why is your healthcare in Denmark page so long? Guys, do you have the socialism or not? Just let me know.
Too many ghosts.
What?
I'm sorry, was that like... Did the Hamlet joke just fly over?
Oh,
Jesus.
God. Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I got you. I got you now.
All right.
Okay.
Apparently it's complicated. Citizens of Denmark may choose between two different types of health insurance groups. So apparently they have like a dual system. I don't have time to read this and also be interesting on a podcast, but I think there's a pretty strong correlation between social safety net and happiness and moral authority. Although no country is perfect. Everyone is bad in some way.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean,
we
definitely have our thing.
As Canadians, we just sent India some problems.
Oh, what did you do? I'm sorry.
Our Prime Minister...
There's so much.
Our Prime
Johnny, there's
Minister,
so much.
J. True.
Yeah.
Just finished a visit to India, and he was...
I saw him dance. I did see him dance.
He was a little insensitive. Just a little bit brash, a little bit like...
Oh.
Is the honeymoon period over with J. True?
Oh,
because everyone was like, he's so hunky.
It's been
and
over.
he's
It's
such
been over for a while. He has pretty much fucked just about every campaign promise. I mean, like globally, he's still very good for our brand.
Sure.
You know?
Oh, he's hot. Oh, he's so hot.
Yeah. So, like, a lot of people are still looking at him and being like, oh, look at the hunky young prime minister from Canada. But in Canada, we're like, what the fuck? You sold us out to the oil companies. You're not really making reparations to the native population, to the First Nations. You're a bit of a douche. He's being a douche.
I feel like that's kind of the thing that we go through with every like neoliberal leader. It was the same thing with Obama, where it's like, oh, he's so much better than Bush, and it's like, oh, I'm just so glad that racism's over and he solved the Middle East. Oh wait, actually things really haven't changed that much. Oh, he's bombing just a lot of civilians.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Don't get me wrong. I still prefer him to the alternative.
Yeah, that's exactly. It's all about fucking comparisons, right?
He's not the only left-leaning alternative in Canada. When I say to the alternative, I mean the previous administration, because we do have a further left party to the Liberals called the NDP, the New Democratic Party. I just wish they could get their shit together ever since their last great leader, Jack Layton, passed away. There was footage of Jack Layton at Star Trek conventions in costume, and I wish he was still around. But yeah, so the Liberal Party of Canada really is neo-liberal. It really is this whole business, but with a slightly softer face.
Yeah. It's dog whistle stuff instead of overt bad stuff, and also economy.
Yeah.
Economy.
So he's
love it.
A lot of the people I know who did vote for him are very, very disappointed with his track record right now. He's a bit of a hollow voice. So
yeah,
it's a shame. Did I ever tell you guys about the one time I got to have socialized medicine?
Was that one of the times you lived in a country that functioned, or?
Yeah. When I lived in South Korea, I obviously did not have a car. I couldn't just bring it over. So I walked everywhere, and it hurt, and it really messed up my foot. And I didn't know what was wrong. I was just in foot pain for days and days. And what I would do in America was nothing. But then I realized that even though I'm not a citizen, I have a work visa. I'm a resident, I guess, at least temporarily. And so I asked someone. They said, yeah, you can just go to the doctor. That's where it is. It's over there. And then I did. And I went in, and we had a little trouble communicating, but that was entirely my fault, obviously, because I spoke almost no Korean, and they spoke a little English, which is still way more than my Korean. And they did a bunch of x-rays, and they looked at it and did a bunch of things and tests. And then a doctor who spoke decent enough English says, "Oh, your foot is not broken. You have a bad tendonitis. It's probably because you've been straining your foot so much." And I was like, "Oh, that makes sense." And I was all ready to be like, well, now I know. I guess I gotta wait it out. And they said, no, we're going to help you. So they gave me massage therapists, and they hooked I don't mean this in a bad way. They hooked up electrodes to my foot to help soothe it, and then they gave me medicine in the pharmacy across the street. And all told, the hospital visit cost, I think, nothing. And the prescription, I can't remember how many won it was, because that's their currency. But I remember I looked it up when I got back to my apartment, because I was amazed, and it was the equivalent of $8. So my visit to the hospital and prescription to fix my foot cost a grand total of $8.
Yep.
And I think that's only because I got the meds because it was more than just the visit.
Yeah. That's the system.
Yeah, that was amazing. I mean, yes, of course. I mean, people will be like, but my taxes, whatever. Look, I paid, taxes got taken out of my paycheck every week in Korea. So worth it. So worth it too, because otherwise I would just have been miserable for months on end, and maybe my foot never would have gotten properly better if I had just destroyed it every single day and not taken my meds and talked to doctors and had people massage and electrify my foot, which was great, by the way. The people who did it were so nice too. They were so understanding of the fact that I had no idea what they were doing to me and could not communicate with them. They were just really sweet about it, and I really appreciated it.
Yeah, there are so many good parts of that story. There's the part where other people have to learn English to put up with us, and that's just a privilege we get for being in the universe, which is exciting. There's the electroshock therapy thing, which I also had when I had reconstructive knee surgery, and it's really interesting. It's not quite like anything else I've ever felt. If you haven't done it, it's interesting. Is the only word I have for it. And then there's just the political thing, which is Here's where I'm at politically. Like, I think we've gotten comments from listeners before and stuff asking like where exactly we are, and I don't want to speak for you guys, but for me, the role of government is to take care of the citizens of the country which is being governed, and to that end, I don't think there is a higher priority than medical care or like essential care, housing, food, medicine,
education.
And, yeah. I mean, I'm kind of to the point where I think it is inherently, like, philosophically, ethically, like, it is a dereliction of their duty not to give us health care like that. Any cent that is spent before we get to that point is governmental malpractice.
Yeah, we're paying into the government. You know, we should be able to get stuff back to live. That should be like a really basic, almost a business transaction. For those in the audience who are about to scream at us for wanting things.
It's just that's how you justify the existence of government. If they're
right.
trying to provide for their citizens before they do anything else, before a single tank or plane or bomb, they have to make sure their citizens aren't dying from preventable illnesses and treatable conditions. It's not a discussion anymore. I'm over like even humoring the opposite of that. I've gotten to a point where like there's always been deal breakers, right? Like I'm flexible on some things. Maybe you think the marginal tax rate should be 25%, and I think it should be 45%. That we can disagree. Reasonable people can find different parts of that spectrum appealing. But like there's some things like if you don't think gay people are human, deal breaker. If you don't think people deserve not to die, deal breaker. It's just I'm not budging anymore on anything related to these anymore. I don't even feel like I need to justify it, and maybe that's part of the reason leftists are bad at marketing and messaging is that we're just like it's a clear moral imperative, and they're like no, and then we just lose, I guess.
Yeah, the joke. It's not even so much a joke, so much just like a sad fact is arguing with a far right social conservative and is basically trying to convince someone to care about other people, and if you don't understand the value in that, it's hard to explain it to someone.
Yeah, you can't argue somebody into empathy.
Yeah,
it's impossible. It's something that you're either like, I guess you're either born with or you grow up with, or I'm sorry, but trying to convince this was one of the big problems that I had with Glorpy Jam was
Sure.
that it was like people like minorities, were basically saying, geez, like it would be really nice to not feel like an outsider. It would really be nice to not feel hypersexualized all the time. To feel like I actually have value as a person and having this reflected in my art. And trying to say to people, look, you can't argue with the fact that these people feel marginalized, that these people feel just a sense of otherness. Like, if I tell you I'm angry, your response cannot be, no, you're not. Go away.
Speaking of Glorpy Jam, which is the thing I guess we're calling that now, I feel bad for any listeners who didn't pick up on that because that last minute was incomprehensible without it. Do you guys see that the fucking guy, I'm not even, I can't physically muster the strength to say his name anymore, is talking big game about violent video games and exploring options.
Oh, man. What cognitive dissonance there must be in the video game playing right that elected this Joker to now see it, like, turned on them and be like, no, I don't think you should have your GTA 5 anymore because teachers need guns.
I literally want him to try to ban video games or to do it. It'd be worth it. I would. This is petty. I would take having all video games banned. It just to fucking exist in the world where they self-owned that hard.
Just to see that 4chan thread. Like the day the music stopped.
Yeah, I don't follow any Gooby Goo people. So when news of maybe we should ban all violent video game stuff came down from Trump, I was wondering, like, were they shouting about betrayal, or were they basically not agreeing with him, like as if he had a good point, but trying to spin it like, yeah, this is what we wanted the whole time.
Most of the people that I saw, because I don't follow any goober grumps myself, but like occasionally you graze by somebody who's like in someone's orbit. Most of the shit that I saw was like, well, I mean, really what he's suggesting is no more different than the awful censorship that feminists were trying to force on video games prior. I mean, really, isn't this just not that different? Probably better, in fact. I mean, if we could be responsible as opposed to baseless accusations that games are needlessly sexist and oh man, yeah, no, he's a very responsible leader and we love him.
Yeah, I guess what I'm trying to say is death to all video games. This was great. We had some fun with this. I feel. This somehow surprisingly came back to video games, but that's all right.
While we were talking, I was trying to find I look on Goomygate known places to see what they were saying about all this Trump business, and it seems like they are the way they're currently handling it is to focus on the reaction by people. So there's a lot of threads discussing, like, here's what Polygon said about Trump's words, here's what Kotaku said about the thing, and then making fun of those journalists, like being mad at them for the way they're handling it, as opposed to actually addressing the fact that the person that they support
they have no message. They don't believe in. They have no message themselves. They don't. And it's fucking amazing. Like just what a delicious situation. I'm sorry. I really enjoy it. There's a very evil part of me, like a very
that's all right.
Very difficult part of me that I'm not sure that I'm capable of naming. That
I hope I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm like I said, I'm really enjoying it.
Okay. I hope like Trump loses his shit for about a week and thinks we should have socialized medicine, and then all of his supporters will back that just to own the libs. And then he'll snap out of it and it'll be too late. Okay. This was fun. I have like one other topic, but it's more like a dumb joke, so it's not good. Does anyone have anything meaningful?
I mean, never, not in the history of this show. But I have some cases real quick.
Okay, we can do that.
We can.
All right, Austin.
Yeah. So more Fourth Amendment cop stuff, but these ones I just thought were funny. So there's a case where in Arkansas, a cop saw someone driving with California plates and said to themselves, "California, that's where drugs come from."
What?
And they pulled that guy over and searched his car and found drugs. Which, it doesn't say any of this in the opinion, but I have to imagine that cop was fucking psyched because he nailed it. And then he arrested the guy, and the guy was convicted. And he challenged his conviction, saying that he was unreasonably searched because of the cop from Arkansas and the whole just pulling people over because of their license plate thing.
Yeah. Wait, I'm sorry. The cop admitted to that?
That's like, how we know about it.
That was his defense? He was like, yep, saw that license plate, thought to myself, heroin, gotta be
Not a lot of Rhodes scholars in the Arkansas police force, methinks.
I mean, but it doesn't take a university education to keep your fucking mouth shut.
If you're arguing that he should have been less honest, I'm not sure I can follow you down that path. I mean, it is obviously stupid to admit to such a thing, but
Look,
in a way,
I'm not, blessings come in many shapes and forms, Austin. But I just, that just seems like a gross oversight.
I think maybe he was honest about it because it showed his fucking pinpoint Kobe Bryant accuracy to hit that one full court. I think maybe he was just basking in it.
Yeah, okay. Of course, absolutely. All right.
Leon?
Okay, so the question here is, is did the appeal go the way of the defendant or the way of the state?
Well, was the officer's entire justification for searching the car that it said California, or
that's what I said. Yep.
Like that was like Leon, the line of my questioning. I suppose I should say ridicule more than questioning, exactly. But
all right, I'm just trying to figure out if I might have missed something, because sometimes my brain drifts off. But no, I apparently got it. It just doesn't make sense. I got it. Okay. I'm gonna say that I want to hope that the cop did not get away with it. That is not always the case, but I would like to believe in hope right now. So
wouldn't we?
That's how I feel. That's how I feel.
Now, was this was at a state level, this appeal?
No, I think this is state police. So, no, I don't know. I don't know. Doesn't matter.
I'm gonna tentatively side with Leon.
So you guys are right.
All right.
You need more than someone's state of origin to sustain reasonable suspicion to conduct a search.
Unless they're Mexican or black.
Well, that there are a lot of cases where they'll say things like, "Oh, it was a high crime area."
Yeah.
The person. Well, actually, here's one. I don't have my notes for this one in front of me because I wasn't going to do it because it's not really funny. But this guy, this cop was driving around a bad neighborhood, saw a guy, got out of his car and walked over to the guy, and the guy took a step backwards upon seeing the cop, which made the cop suspicious, and he searched him and found a gun, and he was arrested. Is that an unreasonable search?
I bet we talked about this before. Police officers can say almost anything is suspicious. And I bet that since he turned out to be right in that particular instance, I bet the court sided with the cop.
Yeah, he was acting shifty is, I think, a great cop defense.
Yeah. Although in like defense of that, like when cops get near me, I also try to get really far away from them very quickly. And I'm not doing anything. I just don't want them near me. But yeah, I bet the cop won.
Yeah. Correct, and this is kind of what I'm comparing this to, is that they can find reasonable suspicion basically no matter what you do. So he took a step backwards. That could be suspicious because maybe he was going to flee. If he would have stayed, that would have been suspicious because he wasn't reacting to the cop.
To the presence of a cop.
If he stepped forward, that's suspicious because maybe he's attacking or something.
It's aggressive.
There's really nothing you can do.
If you get the right legal coaching, you can pretty much argue your way into or out of anything.
Yeah.
As a police officer, I should say.
There's an overwhelming amount of these cases which come down to if it's not a white person or if it's not a woman, then it's pretty suspicious of you to exist. There's in fact one case specifically which is about a white woman who had a gun. And even though they had a tip that she was doing an illegal weapons transaction, and then they caught her doing it, they did not have suspicion to pat her down. And it's just like, this is not like you're missing something. It is an incongruous result, and that's just part of the system. See, I told you that wasn't funny.
Yeah.
The other case that I was interesting was on the so there's this guy who's driving along the Arizona highway. I don't know if you're familiar. It's a long, infinite desert of nothing.
I have been there.
It sucks, right?
I loved it.
Okay, why did you love Arizona? It seems like I as someone who lives in Florida, going somewhere even hotter seems foolhardy.
Because there was nothing there.
Okay.
It was fucking quiet.
Oh.
And I loved
Okay.
that.
Very
It was just like, you could just kind of like stop anywhere and like just be like, oh look, nothing.
I don't mind the solitude. It's the heat that gives me pause.
Yeah, but if you pardon the expression, it's a dry heat.
Okay.
So this guy is driving along this long highway, and a cop, is driving alongside him, and he looks into this car, and in the car there are several children, and the children are waving at the cop in I think what the court decision described as a robotic manner, and the kids are go on waving for quote 4 to 5 minutes. Non-stop weird robot waving. And so the cop pulled the car over and saw drugs inside and arrested the guy. Do you think that's reasonable suspicion?
Because he was acting like a robot?
Well, the kids in the car were.
Okay.
And there's other things like this is the southern border desert is a drug smuggling place.
Yeah, we're talking Joe Arpaio land.
Okay. Yeah, here's the thing. Kids act up all the time, and it usually doesn't have anything to do with drugs or crime. But I bet they found a way to say that was. So I'll probably think that the cop might have got away with it. I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Because that means parents are have like an even worse time than I thought. So.
Yeah, the cop got it.
Yeah, correct. So the way this works is it's something called the totality of the circumstances test. There's not like one thing that you need to be able to point to, and you can take a bunch of things that are only sort of suspicious and add them all together to make more suspicion. So the fact that they were in a high drug trafficking area, the fact that the kids were being fucking weird, and just the officer's experience, which is something they basically always can argue, unless it's just like your first day on the force. So you can just say, well, I'm a cop, and in my experience, and the court is usually like, well, they are the experts. And so all these things added together were reasonable suspicion. So, yeah, if you're going to smuggle drugs, tell your kids to be fucking cool. Just tell them to chill for like a second.
Don't bring your kids.
Also that, I guess. that might be the first step, actually. There was a case. It was like somebody versus Arpaio, the famous evil person.
Fascist?
Yeah, I assume our listeners know. They're relatively in the know, but
probably not. Like, we have a lot of international listeners. They may not necessarily. And I mean, like, even as a Canadian, I am educated on the many follies of Sheriff Joe.
Yes.
Okay. For our international listeners, he's bad.
He was the sheriff who basically runs part of Arizona as his like personal kingdom. He has, by his own admission, tortured people. He's very proud of it. He was convicted and then pardoned by the guy.
Yeah.
Guy.
But there was a case in my law book about basically the community got an injunction against him because he just would not stop harassing non-white people.
He was running fucking slave camps.
No, I mean, like evil, capital E, and it's not up for debate. And that he admitted it. It's not like it was never about like did he do it or not. It was just are we going to punish him? And the answer is no.
Yeah. Austin, are you afraid to say Trump's name because you think he'll appear?
No, I'm just tired of hearing it. It's been like 2 years.
Dude, we got more coming.
I know, but every day. Like,
Yeah,
have you?
I know.
Is there? I don't hear my own name that much.
Austin, it hasn't been 2 years.
Of hearing his name every day? It's been like 2.5.
It's been like 3 years of hearing his name every day, but
oh shit. Yeah.
I got bad news.
Yeah, the presidency itself is only 1 year and a month in. God, it just doesn't seem like it.
I know. I'm talking about just the constant assault of having to think about not just another person, which is I've never thought about anyone every day for that much, not even in a long-term relationship.
Do you guys think he's going to seek re-election?
He already is. He already said that he's seeking re-election. He already hired his campaign manager.
Oh.
He hired his campaign manager.
He's doing rallies and trying to do military parades.
I know, but he hates the job. Like, everybody can see that he hates the job.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. He wants to stick it to people. I think that's more important. I think making other people unhappy is more important than making himself happy.
Gotta be the best.
Yeah, I think there's an ego element. There's also just the whole kleptocracy thing, changing the tax laws and enriching the people he owes millions of dollars to all around the world. You guys know there's like, I think some billions of debt he had with some bank that he did some stuff for recently.
Yep. If you guys had, if any listeners checked out that series I talked about, I think last week, Dirty Money, there's a great episode on Donnie.
Yikes!
I think my ego would be satisfied just for being president for an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Like that would be enough to like fulfill me for the rest of my life.
Right?
They would have to make a library out of me and everything.
Like you could
make a library out of you. Your bones and your skin.
You could do the whole Milton Bradley, like grab your hands together and hold them over one shoulder and go, "I win," and then just like gracefully exit, right? And be like,
I would just hand the reins over to someone who actually knew what they were doing. Like that would be the responsible thing to do.
Like he obviously fucking hates it.
Yeah, I would hate it too. That's what I'm trying to say. It sounds really really hard.
Not even talking about it being hard, right? But like, but just the way that he's used to being able to live his life.
Yeah.
Like,
that's why he goes golfing all the time.
Do you think he wanted to be in a room with a bunch of kids who had been at a shooting at a school?
I think he genuinely misunderstood what a president does. Like, he didn't pay attention in civics.
No, he doesn't understand his job. He is constantly proving that, like, literally every day, in how he talks about who should be doing what. And the way, even the way he tweeted at Obama for years was like, why don't you unilaterally do the thing you explicitly do not have the authority to do? It's not up for debate. He doesn't know what he's doing.
It's like, it's going to get worse for him, too. Because,
probably.
I'm sorry, but the elections at the end of this year, I don't see them going his way.
No. I mean, his party's probably going to lose a lot of seats, and he will rightly be blamed for a lot of it, and he'll hate his fucking life, and it's put him and his family under such scrutiny. Oh, yeah.
And now everybody's all like, oh, hey, does the president have sex with his wife? Because she doesn't really look like she's having any of it. Like,
wow.
Could you imagine committing yourself, being like, nah, this is okay. I'm okay with this. This is what I want to do. This is my life now. Like,
oh.
I'm concerned about how petty I'm feeling over some of these things. Like, I don't want to be the kind of person who, when you say...
Austin, let yourself have it.
Wait, some people need to be destroyed, Austin, and it's okay to feel good.
No, it's just yourself have this fucking guilty pleasure, please. Don't be a fucking, saint. Just for once. Have a dirty giggle with the rest of us, okay?
You said about the midterm elections, and my brain just immediately started screaming, I hope Paul Ryan cries on TV. God. It's sad how much I want that. The last case I wanted to talk to you guys about was one, it's similar to the taking a step backwards thing, but there was some people in a high crime area, and I actually want to talk about that for a second, but we'll get there. And some cops drove up in a bunch of vans and all jumped out in SWAT gear with guns and started chasing people. And then they caught some of them and arrested them and said it was suspicious that you were running.
Yeah.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why I do all my running on the treadmill.
So cops don't get you?
They got away with that.
No.
They absolutely got away with that.
I bet. Yeah. I mean, running is, well, I mean, going by comparisons, running looks a lot more, suspicious.
The whole conservative mindset around surveillance and increased police state is, well, if you didn't do anything wrong, you have nothing to worry about.
Yeah. Running looks more suspicious than taking one step backward. So I bet that in the same way, the cop wins.
Is that 2 cops win?
2 cops win.
Not only are you guys correct, but this is actually a police technique that has a name. It's called a jump out. The idea is if you startle someone into reacting to your presence, they can be detained because it is suspicious to be scared of police.
Oh my God, that's like a child's I'm not touching you. This shouldn't be bothering you technique. It's like when you wave your hand in front of someone's face.
No, Leon, you're thinking entrapment, which is most definitely illegal if not explained properly.
Okay.
Yeah, well, entrapment's a crime. Running is not. It's not a crime necessarily. I mean, you could stretch it to try to be some kind of obstruction of justice. It's not. It's really just about getting the reasonable suspicion, which is a very low bar, to make a stop, and then you start patting people down to see if they have drugs or weapons, which is really what they're after. Is just to make mostly minorities, but all poor people basically feel that at any time the police can violate your personal security and safety and put their hands on you and so forth. But the idea that when someone with a gun starts running at you, legally you should not react is kind of wild.
Yeah, but I mean, all they say in retrospect is, well, why didn't you do what the cop told you to do? Why didn't you stop? Why didn't you get down on the ground? Why didn't you? Oh, it's because you're a criminal.
Yeah.
And then, right there, it's this whole, it's bullshit.
Yeah. So if you guys want to learn about jump outs, that's a Google probably search worth doing. It's a thing that they do. But I want to talk real quick about the concept of a high crime area because it's important to a lot of these cases. Because you need, like I said, a totality of circumstances analysis to justify reasonable suspicion. And so usually it's like he moved suspiciously, or there was some kind of shape on their clothing that might have been a weapon. And in my experience, this person looked like a criminal, and they were in a high crime area. Like, just a lot of really amorphous factors that combined make up enough. And I actually said something like this in class, which was that high crime area seems like something that gets applied to minority and poor communities disproportionately to basically justify the over-policing, which it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. And it's like you don't see police classifying Wall Street as a high crime area, even though objectively it might be that.
Look, Austin, are you familiar with the Henry Louis Gates Jr. case?
Yeah, the professor at Harvard who got arrested.
The Harvard professor who got arrested after going into his own house?
Yes. It was very suspicious of a black person to have a house.
I mean, honestly, high crime area too. Cambridge, Massachusetts.
Yeah. So that was a whole thing. In talking about the jump outs too, the professor said something about if you have nothing to fear from the police, and he was like, this was in his opinion, he was summarizing what they were saying. He said, you should just go about your business. And I just yelled, what if my business is running away from cops? The whole thing. It's, I don't know. I feel like everyone knows my feelings. I've been thinking a lot this week about the world, and specifically about how it feels like we, and I use that to mean people who believe the things I believe, have to do so much work to justify your shit, and the people who disagree with us can just say fucking whatever. And I know the world's not fair, and expecting fairness is a waste of time, But it is deeply frustrating that almost every discourse and analysis and political essay or whatever comes from this place where I have to constantly justify myself, and we're just constantly told that we have to just respect other opinions, and it's like it seems.
No, you have to respect other people's right to have an opinion. You definitely don't have to respect other people's opinion. It's an important distinction that people need to understand.
I mean, in practice, though, it's just not an enforceable distinction.
Of course.
So,
well, all right.
It's just
can we give big ups to the Florida students who are just fucking
yeah,
preaching it from the fucking mount?
You're like the survivors who are actually trying to push forward meaningful gun legislation is kind of amazing.
It's pretty fucking baller, is what it is. Like,
I'm about it.
Honestly, nothing but respect for those fucking kids.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
I have a couple things I wanted to say before we jump into questions. One, just to give you like an insight into what my life is like. 2 different people called me a cuck today, and it was for 2 unrelated things. Here's the thing. It doesn't offend me, because when someone says that sincerely, I know that they're garbage, so their opinion doesn't matter.
I'm sorry, you can't expect to be taken seriously if you use that word.
They genuinely don't understand
with
that.
any sincerity anymore.
Yeah. Someone, I can't. One of them called me a cuck for my episode on Red Dawn. There was literally nothing about women in that episode, but I think to them, like, that word doesn't just mean that. It means like anyone who is left of them or something.
We've discussed this in pretty strong detail. It's a racialized thing about power.
Yeah, it is. It is also that, yeah. And someone just did it as we were doing the episode. Said I was a cuck for my episode on Jurassic World, which I mean that did have some stuff about gender in it. So I guess whatever.
Leon, did you get cucked by a dinosaur? It really does make you think, though. What if you came home and a T-Rex was raw dogging your girl? What would you do?
Yeah, that's it. That's what I wanted to say. Oh, I did have one more dumb thing to say, and it's even dumber than that.
I'm skeptical, but throw it at me.
Okay, so 3 years ago, we made an episode about Taylor Swift copywriting words in her songs.
Jesus.
Yeah, I know. This Swift sheet.
Yeah, this is the update to that. Related to this, someone claimed that she plagiarized some of the lyrics from her song from someone else, and there was like a copyright dispute again about this song. It's just, but from a different perspective. The judge who had to mediate this and decide whether or not Taylor Swift's lyrics were cribbed from someone said they were because they're too unoriginal.
Got her.
The lyrics are too banal to be protected.
Fucking wrecked.
So I thought that was fun.
They call that a slow burn.
It was good. Yeah, that's all I wanted to say this episode. I wanted to shit on a couple people and talk about Taylor Swift. That's it. You want to talk about questions now?
Sure. Actually, one more real quick case. There was a law that was passed, I believe, in the 60s that said that food stamps would not be issued to people who had households containing unrelated persons. Roll that around in your head a second.
Yeah, that means you can't live in sin with someone.
Oh, so what exactly they were trying to get at there is kind of a spoiler, but the idea, I assume everyone knows what food stamps are, but it's the thing that
I don't act. I mean, like, I'm vaguely familiar with the concept, but I'm not familiar with the
the actual process. No. The actual process. I knew someone who had to use food stamps, and it is actually it's well, I guess it depends on the state, but where I lived and where she lived, it's a card, and it's like a debit card, and money is processed into it. They don't actually lick stamps and say, "I want the chicken."
No, I get that.
I'm not familiar exactly how it started. It may have been well, obviously this was created before debit cards, as I recall. But yes, nowadays it's just an electronic system. That's all. It's just called that.
I mean, let's be honest. It's a welfare system, right? Where the government basically helps out and says, here's some extra money that you can use only towards the purchasing of foods and sundries.
Yeah. If you try to if you go to and I've seen this in action. If you go to a supermarket with your food stamps card and you buy a bunch of food, but you also buy toilet paper, the card will get the food, but it will not get the toilet paper, and you will have to pay for toilet paper out of pocket.
Okay.
Or anything that is not food. I think that's reasonable. If you don't have food, you should have food, and that seems like a completely obvious and logical thing that I think everyone should believe we should all have food. And yes, some people just really hate any the food stamp system because I don't know.
The Food Stamp Act was passed in 1964, so this is this case is pretty right after that, essentially.
Okay.
And yeah, the idea is it's a supplemental nutrition program, and it's heavily stigmatized in this country. It's an extremely shameful thing that our culture is, that you want to be alive,
that you need to eat.
Yeah.
But some people challenged that a specific rule that everyone in your household has to be related. What do you guys think about that?
Unrelated.
Everyone has to be related.
It's bullshit.
Yeah, of course it is.
That is total bullshit. It doesn't matter whether or not you were born into the same family or anything like that. So what? An abusive sibling who, would what, fuck your shit up or literally abuse you is more entitled to aid than someone you choose to make family with because you live together. That is fucking ridiculous.
From the conservative perspective, I imagine that is their way of trying to, this is nonsense, to cut down on abuse so that people who are unrelated don't just huddle together and collect resources, which is nonsense. The actual food stamp fraud is such a microscopic amount that it's negligible.
Yeah,
it doesn't
but you
matter.
know that they would fucking love to talk about it. All these takers in the country, Leon. All these takers, they just take.
Yeah, I remember reading an article recently that says food stamp fraud increased, and people were like, "Oh no, look, it's horrible." And it's but it's actually 0.01%. That's its increase. That's how much it is now, instead of slightly less than it was before. It's okay. I'm sorry, Austin. I keep deviating from the actual case you're trying to explain.
No, I mean, I think you guys both got it. It's illogical, cruel, idiotic rule made by morons. But I think, Leon, your reasoning was actually closer to what they were getting at, which is having people abuse the system. What ultimately ended up deciding this case, and remember, this is not a sex or race based distinction, so it's rational basis.
Of course it's not.
I'm
nodding my head in a very agreeable fashion, Austin.
They said rational basis, all they need is just the barest explanation. They barely even have to try. But what sunk the government's case on this particular rule is that in the legislative history, one of the people who drafted it made a comment about keeping dirty hippies from having communes where the government pays them to eat. And that is discriminatory on its face, and that was bad for them. So this did get struck down as unconstitutional, but it goes beyond that. I think there's also clearly implications of Christian morality, that we want nuclear families, We also don't. I don't know if they would have been thinking about gay people at the time, but gay marriage didn't exist, so that would have hurt. This is kind of a good feel-good story that the government wasn't able to do this, and I just did want to take the time to say, if you think it's shameful that people need food to eat, what the fuck is wrong with you? It's absolutely
is that
unconscionable.
right in the American like motto where it's like right to life?
Life, liberty, like and the pursuit. Yeah, life is in there, but
yeah, there are some certain things that like are required for that first one.
Here's the thing: whenever people mention like obvious things where you should that we should have, and you say, "Well, you have a right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness," someone will say, "Yeah, but not forever." And someone will literally say something like that to kind of weasel out of like some sort of like obvious truth. Yeah. Okay.
We're gonna get into questions. It just circled back around to my original thing, which is my politics are people need to live, and that's the number one priority, and that goes for everything. It goes food stamps, guns, freedom of speech. The limits of every single right is basically priority one. People should live.
Right. And so that's your message for this episode. Leon's message for this episode is burn every video games, and my message is kiss me.
I think we can get behind all of this.
All right. Okay. Questions.
All right. We got a question here from Starlight Glimmer. Did nothing wrong, Johnny? Have you played any new or interesting VR games recently?
Yeah, I mean, like I'm always kind of poking around in the VR, in the VR space, so to speak. I only recently I logged on today into the Oculus storefront, and somebody, I haven't watched it yet. Okay, I haven't, but somebody made the genius fucking decision to make like a VR movie. TV like what are they? Okay, so they call it a custom themed multi-format movie experience app starring, and I shit you not, Nicolas Cage, called the Humanity Bureau VR. So I'm definitely gonna have to check that out. No, but recently, did I talk to you guys about Subnautica? Did we talk about Subnautica?
Yes, you said it was very spooky to be in the ocean.
Incredibly spooky. I've also played DEF CON VR. Do you guys remember DEF CON? From, I can't remember the name of the company. They did Prison Architect and Darwinia. It's this, like, DEF CON is this old, kind of like War Games styled nuclear, the only way to win is not to play kind of game that uses this, like, super fucking old, like, outdated graphics. They have a VR version of that where you, like, get to stand in a war room and, like, watch the nukes launch on this, like, 3D globe. That was, I messed with that just like the other week. I've been fucking around in the drawing apps a lot, actually. Like Tilt Brush and Quill and Medium. They are a lot of fun. Like, Tilt Brush particularly, because you can do things like draw electricity in the air and shit like that. Like, it's so... just like anything you can imagine, you can just fucking make. And I really like that. Those are... I think that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it for me. For new stuff. I futzed around with the new Eve Valkyrie update that came out like 2 months ago or something like that. But, I mean, it's great as shit. I also had a chance to play Bridge Crew with Star Trek Bridge Crew with like 4 human people for the first time, just like a month and a half ago or something like that, and that was amazing. I got to play with Ben Patton, who used to be a Blistered Thumbs associate and now does video game work with movies with Mikey on YouTube. He does Port Center and a bunch of like Let's Plays with Mikey Newman and everything. Yeah, so Ben Patton and I got to play Star Trek Bridge Crew, and that was a lot of fun because I'd never had a chance to play with like actual people before, so that was great. Love that. That's what I got right now. That's my VR playlist at the moment. Subnautica, fucking DEF CON VR, Star Trek Bridge Crew, Valkyrie, and I'm so gonna watch this fucking Nicolas Cage movie. Nicolas Cage in VR? Are you fucking kidding me?
We got another Johnny question real quick. Cyretha asked, Johnny, how is the BC provincial government preparing for the legalization of marijuana this summer?
It's a little larger than that. It's actually like federal. This is one of the things that like maybe J. True is going to follow through on, is that he wants to federally decriminalize marijuana.
Is 2018 the year you get dank, Johnny?
2018 may actually be the year that I get dank.
I'm so excited for dank, Johnny.
This is the thing, is that I'm actually looking forward to the possibility of being able to like walk into a store and be like, hey, I have trouble sleeping, but I don't want to be like wrecked off my ass the next morning. Can you recommend something? Like I'm looking forward to standardized doses and like just like people who fucking know their shit that I can talk to about and try and find something that works for me. But like British Columbia for many years has been the epicenter of cannabis production in Canada. So we are much, I think, more readily prepped to deal with the transition than a lot of other provinces are. We already have like analysis labs like up and running, who basically contract out to manufacturers and things like that to make sure that their products, like their edibles or their drinks or anything, adhere to a strict standard of dosage, and whether or not like the cannabinoids in it are the ones that just sort of like relax you and do things like pain management, or whether or not they're the ones that get you fucking lifted. So there's a bunch of like licensing transfers that's come over. I know all this because I have a family member who actually works in one of these labs. So they're doing it pretty well. I know that there's a lot of worry on the ground though, as has happened in a lot of the states that have legalized cannabis, that big business is going to push small producers out, and that's going to happen. So, sorry. But yeah, I think they're ready for it. I'm looking forward to it. I'm hoping that I might be able to find something that works for me. Cool. And also, I'm hoping that I can get, like, blazed.
That's what we call it.
Yep. They sure do.
Leon, I know how much you love weed. So much.
I don't think I've talked to you guys about this, but I am allergic. I'm actually allergic to cannabis pollen. Yeah. Like I'm allergic to just about every fucking kind of pollen on the face of this earth, right? So I can't eat raw fruits, and there are some vegetables that I absolutely have to fucking cook before I eat, or else I get like constricted in the throat and shit like that. So I mean I've never really been that into it because it makes me feel like sweaty dick, but
that's the worst kind.
But I mean, everybody prefers a dry member, if you will.
Sure. Oh my god. For our any new listeners who are wondering, Austin was joking. I've never actually smoked pot. I could if I want to, because there is literally a dispensary 10 minutes from where I live.
It's all a lie. I've seen Leon blaze up in front of students.
No.
Be like, what you gonna do? Call your parents?
I'm a substitute, bitch.
He loves getting blazed while he's getting cucked. It's a whole thing.
Yeah.
but in all seriousness,
one of those very specific fetishes.
Oh my god! In all seriousness, no, I never have. I could very legally do that. I just have no particular interest in doing so.
There's a golf game for VR.
What?
Everyday Golf VR. How old am I, guys? Should I be excited about this?
Yikes. It's been this last couple of weeks, I've been thinking a lot about the Constitution and the amendments thereof and repealing certain ones. So, first of all, the last episode, I said that at the last possible second and made the title, which is quite a choice. I mean, did you get a lot of angry clicks, Leon?
Oh, yeah, like a few people are like shitty, but like I don't care. You like I explained, like I don't care what people with bad opinions say about
That's fine, but it just reminded me because we're talking about weed and stuff, and I know that people come from a place of emotion and not like actual legal arguments. That's fine, I guess. Like not everyone needs to know this stuff, but if amending the Constitution is not legal, or like repealing an amendment is not a legitimate governmental action, then I'm pretty excited for alcohol to be illegal again. Because we did repeal that amendment, and if repealing amendments is not a thing that this country can do, then are you guys excited for Prohibition 2 Electric Boogaloo? I am.
Don't take my wine.
Well, then take Leon, Johnny. I called you Leon. Johnny.
Leon, I will take you.
You can only have it one way. Either there's no alcohol and guns, or no guns and alcohol. Which one? Choose
no
wisely.
Guns? No guns and alcohol?
Yeah, I would. That seems reasonable to me. That seems like the most obvious thing to do. Cool.
Mm-hmm. Okay, some more questions. Someone's synthesis platformism asks, "What is wrestling?" Parentheses wrestling.
Wrestling.
It's
I've wanted to say wrestling for
performance
weeks
art
now,
fighting.
Austin, you never let me.
It's live audience performance art fighting.
That was the only wrestling question I saw, so I had to get to know. But they also asked, "What is the most problematic opinion you've held?" Ooh. Problematic in quotes. Ooh. I asked this one. I'm not trying to put you guys on the spot, but actually, do you have an answer? And it might be interesting or instructive.
When I was a teenager, I very shallowly believed in the whole concept of the Philosopher King, which I guess is a really soft way of saying that I think I was a sensitive fascist when I was a kid.
I understand the appeal of a good a benevolent ruler that we all trust and like. It's a cult of personality thing. It happens.
Yeah, but I mean that shit just doesn't fucking happen.
Or it doesn't happen forever. The problem is even if you get somebody who is good, they can only live so long.
Look, you've had a president in power for the whole of 13 months, and he hasn't done a good thing yet.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. I would only trust Captain Picard to be the Philosopher King.
Ooh, good choice.
Yeah, that's it though. Problematic opinions. I don't know what they are right now.
Wait,
I probably do.
Can we have Vice President Benjamin Sisko? Because I just want to see him on TV giving speeches.
Okay, well that's basically what the Vice President does.
Yeah, right. Wouldn't that be great? Be like, why
yeah, I'd be fine with
can't
that.
we just keep people healthy?
Yeah. So yeah. Okay. Let me go back to what I was saying. Problematic opinions. I'm not sure which ones I have right now. I used to have really shitty opinions. When I was younger, I slowly got rid of a lot of them and replaced them with good and sensitive opinions about things. Sophisticated opinions, I hope. I'm trying to think of I had if you knew me when I was 20, which I guess none of you did.
Were you an edgelord?
I wouldn't go so far as to say I was an edgelord, but I would have this. I would have the kind of but what about my free speech opinions about when I would say if I would say a shitty thing, or if I would see if I would watch a movie and it was gratuitous and disgusting, and someone would say, well, that was gratuitous and disgusting and a little sexist.
Yeah,
I would be like,
it's kind of amazing how, like, living a life, because Leon, you're closer to my age than Austin,
Yeah.
obviously, where my free speech has not been impugned in, like, any way whatsoever.
if anything, we've gotten way more access to free speech.
No kidding, right? It just, like, suddenly
Some would argue
realizing-
too much, but go on.
Suddenly realizing that it's like, wow, you know, nobody's coming for this. Nobody's actually attacking it. You know what, you guys? I think we're gonna be okay.
Yeah, I had when I was younger, I had feelings about when people would criticize like a movie or a game for having problematic elements. When I was much younger, I would have the reaction of "shut up," which is not really an argument. I would be like, "Shut up, free speech." But I was dumb, and I didn't like I knew deep down, I think, that people had a point, but I hated the idea of acknowledging it, because that would mean I would have to not like certain things that I like and actually think about the things that I consume. And I spent a lot of time thinking about it, and then eventually I was like, oh, it's okay that some things are shitty, and sometimes some media is irresponsible, and it's okay, because thinking about it and making peace with that, and maybe thinking about how it could change is like a good thing for the person, but it's also a good way of seeing that media in its totality, instead of just like mindlessly defending it. So that's a good thing in general, both personally and for maybe society. So that's these are things that one assumes you just figure out as you get older. But there are a lot of people who are a lot older than me who just don't. They just don't want to believe that. They don't want to think that anything they like is problematic, because they think that word is too bad, is like too nebulous, and they're like, oh well, that word means anything, so I don't have to think about anything ever. So I don't know. That's yeah. I guess there's the worst opinions I've had are hopefully the opinions I've tried to phase out.
Yeah.
Austin?
I sure hope so, anyway.
All of our old opinions are bad. Every day we get better, and the old version of us is a coward and a charlatan.
Austin, was your bad opinion when you thought you could take me, son?
I love it when Johnny gets spicy on here.
Yeah.
I was reminded when I read this question of there was a time in high school I was dating a woman whose dad was gay, and I was never anti-gay or anything, but I remember us having a conversation, and I was very frustrated, wrongly, by her inability to articulate to me what was wrong with like civil unions as opposed to gay marriage, because it was like if people want rights and like benefits and stuff that married people get, like taxes and hospital visitation, obviously that's right and they should get that, but what's the difference? Like if people's idea of marriage is so sacrosanct and it's such a politically difficult thing to get past that, why don't we just give gay people an alternative? Why can't they just get
sorry, so what
else?
you're saying is that you were like, hey, what's the difference between civil union and marriage? So let's just call it civil union, and that'll be fine?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and of course, the difference between the problem with anything that's separate but equal is that the very existence of it is actually psychologically damaging to the marginalized group. There's actual studies about how it was psychologically damaging, for example, during segregation. Even if like your white and not white water fountains were perfectly pristine, exactly, which is probably not true. The very fact that it existed not only said something about a society, but reinforced certain attitudes in a society, and it is psychologically damaging to people. It is othering in a way that is damaging to people.
Which is what the holding of Brown v. Board of Education was really about. It really, honestly, if you read the case, doesn't come out so much that, like, racism is bad. It's just like, we have some studies that is troubling about this effect on children, and you don't want to hurt the children, do you? It's like, it's kind of a shrewd political move, the way they framed it, basically, to end segregation, was to make it about children and these science studies instead of about race, because it's much trickier to argue that stuff. And people are pretty comfortable being racist, it turns out. Not so much about telling kids to go fuck themselves, although in 2018, we're out here finding new frontiers of telling kids to go fuck themselves.
And yet, maybe the only way we get meaningful gun legislation is saying "What about the kids?"
Yeah,
oddly enough, and instead of just saying "What about literally all the people who are dying?" But okay,
yeah,
all right.
but for this whole opinion thing, obviously I was wrong in a number of ways, and it wasn't that person's job to explain it to me. I was a human being capable of thought and research, but I just remember that very vividly. Partly because I feel bad, but also because I think a lot of destructive impulses in our society seem reasonable to the people who have them. Like we were dunking on neoliberals earlier, like I think to Obama, who is a constitutional scholar and an incredibly intelligent person, I think a lot of the things he had to do or thought he had to do were perfectly reasonable to him. And I'm sure like the establishment and we're like, yeah, we have to bomb these places. No, we can't find money for these families. We got to deport these people, like all of those things. There's explanations. You tell yourself there's justifications. But like the boring, simplistic, idealistic, naive truth is like sometimes things are just wrong. And you just you know it like on some level, and you're lying to yourself if you think otherwise. This almost ties back into the Philosopher King thing, right? Where it's like we all want to believe that like there are people who
the nice guy is gonna save us.
Yeah, that I don't even know what it is in us, but like even though like from my own experience, well, instead of dunking on conservatives, I'll use myself. Just like, oh, Bernie Sanders, like, oh, he has all these good ideas. I wish he was president, but like, he also has bad ideas. He's not going to save us. If we elect him, he wouldn't fix the country overnight. We'd be sitting here being like, can you believe he also is doing all this bad stuff? Like, it would be not as bad, obviously, but no, there isn't a good, clean solution.
There's no panacea. There's no like salve that you can just apply to the wound that Western imperialism and democracy and fucking like superiority culture has just entrenched and created for itself. Like it's deep and nasty shit, and we're gonna have to dig through a lot of it.
We tell ourselves all kinds of weird, like, justifications to do all this stuff, too. I've been frustrated a lot doing just, like, reading and research and stuff about the ways in which things are never capitalism's fault. But that is not true of the alternatives.
So, oh my God, I had an experience with that. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say like, so people say like, oh, the Soviet Union fell, so therefore no collectivism could ever work, and it's like, yes, because no capitalist society has ever failed ever in the history of the world. What are you fucking talking about? But go on, Leon. Still, a lot of this is self-evident, but.
I was like a little disappointed in Hank Green recently, because I've enjoyed some of his YouTube videos about philosophy, and he said on Twitter, which was enough to make me like, oh man, he said, after spending years in business, I've realized there is nothing wrong with capitalism. It is only the people who abuse it who are the real problem. That's a very guns don't kill people, people kill people argument that I don't feel like was completely well thought out. And you know, people are entitled to say the occasional vacuous thing. I certainly do. But, you know, I'm not perfect. I'm certainly no angel. But that was like, oh, Hank, you're one of the only celebrities that I follow on Twitter. I mostly just follow my friends and like a couple news organizations and like a couple people. And I was like, dude, all right, I guess.
And I mean, capitalism is good at some stuff. It allocates resources efficiently, and it reflects society's, demand for things. And like, I'm not trying to erase that. I think there are sectors where it is important. I don't want like socialized art necessarily. Art grants, sure, but not just like state artists or anything. But there are things that I think capitalism is not only ill-suited but immorally suited to cover, such as healthcare, housing, and food, which are this is just the new Austin now, an obligation of any correct government. But yeah, that's it's something that's been frustrating me a lot recently, is the constant need to basically excuse every single issue and never have to do the opposite. The people who I disagree with having to do the opposite, you know? So this has come up a lot in the gun context, but it's broader than that, so... Okay. It's frustrating. I lost my train of thought somewhere along the way. Question?
That's okay.
We're out of time. I'm sorry. I did it bad.
That's all right. We had a pretty good show. Anything you guys want to say before we go?
Hey, everybody. Welcome to WordFunk Plays, first edition. Today we're going to be looking at a brand new title from itch.io titled David Lynch Teaches Typing. So I'm just booting this up right now. And, let's see, we got some Black Lodge floor. That's David Lynch right there.
This is a good Let's Play. Begin. On the way out, Creature asked Johnny, I recently saw someone, Bog Leech on Tumblr, floating the idea of banana slices pickled in some sort of honey-based brine. Is this a thing that can be made to happen in this, our world? We need your culinary opinion on banana slices pickled in honey-based brine. I almost threw up my mouth a little bit there.
No, actually, honey brine would work.
The idea of pickling a banana causes my sensory organs to retract.
Look, Austin, okay, here's the thing, is that what you need to understand is that fermented foods are coming back in a big way right now, okay? So, like, your plain yogurts, your kimchi, your fucking sauerkraut. Hey, look at that. Oh. You know, what else do we got? There's like kombucha, right? Kefir, yeah, right. So the apparently the idea around fermented foods is that they basically get broken down in a way that's much easier for us to digest, and also have a bunch of bacteria in it that kind of like cooperate with the human guts, essentially. And yeah, so that's, my God, this is I think that's actually David Lynch. Sorry. Like, I'm dead serious. I'm playing a game right now called David Lynch Teaches Typing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so honey brine might work, because like the only fermenting is like you don't necessarily have to go sour in order for things to ferment. And I have had like a salted honey bacon before. And I mean, tell me that doesn't sound good. Sea salt, honey bacon, right?
Okay. No, I'm rigid right now. Go on.
Yeah, but like, so salty sweet kind of works, right? So like a honey, like a salted honey banana. Yeah, man, that could work.
Okay. I just want to say right before we go, we'll briefly.
Sorry, it's called a McLaughlin Tosh.
That's fine. This is really happening in real time. Austin briefly touched upon I think, at least in passing, the importance of our artistic freedom a moment ago, and I would just like to say that the argument against that is Jon McNaughton. He makes those paintings that it's so difficult to describe on an audio podcast here, but they're like deeply conservative paintings about like President Obama stepping on the Constitution, and like all the other presidents like, what are you doing, except for a few Democrats who are standing next to him and applauding. I believe that's called The Empowered Man, if you want to Google that. Play along with me. Another one is Jesus holding I think that might be the Declaration of Independence or the Constitution. I can't really tell. And it's he's just standing in the middle, and like, oh,
What?
there's like a few.
You've never seen this propaganda before? It doesn't even make any sense.
David Lynch just asked me to place my left ring finger on the undulating bug next to my keyboard.
Nice.
Okay, Johnny is completely checked out of this conversation.
It doesn't even make any sense. Obama was a constitutional scholar. The Constitution is his whole thing.
It doesn't matter to this person.
Okay.
Then the most recent one that I've seen is called "You Are Not Forgotten," and it is President Trump stepping on a snake, and another like a sad white man looking at I can't even tell.
How can
It's
they
so
glorify Trump? He literally today tried to say he supports suspending due process. There's no less "don't tread on me" thing possible.
There's that the guy standing right next to him is, I can't remember the goddamn guy's name. He's that sheriff who wears a lot of fake medals on his shirt.
Sheriff Clark.
Clark. Yeah, that's him. Yeah, I think that's him standing there, and just a bunch of cops who are very excited about this, about the stepping. Mm-hmm. This is dumb. I'm sorry.
So your argument is that capitalism has failed us by allowing that art to exist?